And I'm back. I knew you couldn't wait to hear my voice again, so here I am, Keith Grieve from 87sportsfans.com, bringing you yet another fantastic production of 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Thank you, one and all, for joining me on this magical mystery tour through the world of sports. A reminder that this and every broadcast is brought to you by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. And if you are so inclined and would like to take part in the program, not resigned to just sitting by and listening to me babble, but rather to engage, the phone number here is 585-633-7487. 585-633-7487. The email is youguysuck@87sportsfans.com, and also the Twitter page at 87sportsfans, and also facebook.com/87sportsfans. All right, folks. Well, let me tell you. Last week, you ever want to watch a man's life drain out of him? Have him buy a house in his late 30s. So much just garbage. Ask anybody that's done it; they'll tell you. Just indentured servitude is what I'm calling it. This is fantastic. Fantastically exhausted. It better be worth it. That's all I'm going to say. Not even. I don't even have anything moved in yet. Just painting and fixing and buying. A lot of money flowing out of my wallet lately, and not the good kind. Not exactly making it rain, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so the only thing more exhausted than me is the Indiana Pacers, apparently. Now, as we speak, they're about 9 minutes left in the third quarter, and Miami's up 42-35. But the real fun and giggles part of it all is that LeBron James was whistled for 3 fouls in the first half and only scored 2 points. So, if you're the Pacers, you just got a very, very early Christmas present. Very early Christmas present. The best player on the planet was rendered ineffective. Whether it's a referee issue or you're just that good, who cares at this point? He was rendered a non-factor in the first half. And you're still trailing double digits at the half because you can't score more than 11 points in the second quarter. 11 points in the second quarter. This is the Eastern Conference Finals. And you go out in the second quarter of an elimination game and you put out 11 points? There's no excuse. And I feel like an idiot because the last 3 shows I've been beating my head over, why are the Pacers like this? Why are they like this? 4 or 5 weeks ago, I defended Frank Vogel. Everybody wanted his head on a platter. Said it's not his fault. Who do you blame in this situation? You can't look at that roster. I'm coming down off of my Frank Vogel pedestal. I'm not taking the soapbox on the opposing view yet, but I'm kind of mulling about the crowd and just kind of listening to both sides right now. Because as a coach, you have to put your players in a position to be successful. And part of that is getting them ready. And it is very clear that this team is just shell-shocked. They lose, game 4 to fall in a 3-1 deficit. And Lance Stevenson's apologizing for talking about LeBron's trash talking. They're saying that bothered them. That I shouldn't have brought it up. That bothered us a little bit. If you're that much of a mental midget, you're screwed to begin with. You should have just forfeited. this Game 5. If Lance Stevenson talking about LeBron James trash talking rattled the Indiana Pacers, then why even play? Because psychologically you're not going to make it anyway. And let's just have some straight talk here, kids, about this series. The Indiana Pacers went out and won Game 1 of this series and held home court. It was an absolutely must win. They went out and did it. Kudos to them. But what's happened since? They've scored 83 points, 87 points, 90 points in Game 4, but they gave up 102. Yeah, I know Paul George had a concussion in Game 3. Wasn't the same. Gutted it out. Blah, 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 blah. But who else is attempting, even trying to pick up the slack? David West has got the second highest usage rate right now. He's 33 years old. He can't be carrying that load. I don't know. If it may become a moot point. Because if Larry Bird already had an itchy trigger finger to begin with at the beginning of the playoffs, what's going to happen after they squander a 1-0 lead and choke off 4 straight to the Heat, losing the Eastern Conference Finals again? And whether it's right or wrong, as soon as the Heat are crowned Eastern Conference champions, the talk of whether Frank Vogel is the guy to take them to the next level, that conversation is going to start happening almost immediately. It's a certainty. But as much as we or we should, I don't know whether we do, but as much as we should, be championing a guy like Frank Vogel, he's done nothing to justify keeping him around another year. If you look on Twitter, and I'm just looking right now as a perfect example, Hardwood Paroxysm at HP Basketball on Twitter. It's crazy how little this team cares. That's their mentality. And where does that come from? That starts at the top. And whether there's any truth to that locker room garbage that was rumored before or whatnot, even if a little of it's true, where's the head coach bringing everybody under the tent? If he tried, he failed. And this roster is built to at least contend, if not win, now. Whether Paul George is is really the star that we all thought he was after last year's playoffs, well, that may remain to be seen, but I'll take him ahead of a lot of other guys. It's a great place to start. Now, Roy Hibbert may have some decisions to make about the big man. .38-39 Heat right now, 7:24 left in the third quarter. So, barring Indiana pulling its head out of its collective arse, that game seems to be heading the way we all think it would, even though they've now knotted it up to 7. And the referees are doing everything to give the Pacers every advantage possible. LeBron James has 5 fouls right now. 5 fouls with 7:18 left to go in the third quarter. And Pacers need to win this game. If they can't win this game, They can't win anything, period. So let's turn our attention out west, shall we, folks? The Western Conference Finals, the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. A complete tale of two halves of this series so far. The San Antonio Spurs absolutely drubbing the Thunder in games 1 and 2, and then the tables turned by almost exact scores of 106 to 97 and 105 to 92 on Oklahoma City's home court. What could possibly be triggering this resurgence? Well, all of a sudden, Serge Ibaka, who was labeled as out for the rest of the playoffs, magically came back, was magically healed, and able to not just play, but pretty much be his normal self. The tail of the tape. Now, whether you believe Ibaka is really as good a defensive player as his awards would have you believe, because I have seen some dissenting views, you can't argue. Game 1, San Antonio scores 122 points. San Antonio 112 points in Game 2. Game 3 and 4, 97 and 92. Still a lot of points, but Oklahoma City can score. Their problem is that they're not very good defensively. Especially without Ibaka. Without Ibaka, he can, like everybody else has been pointing out, he redirects things. And that's more than valuable. If you're weak up the middle, you are going nowhere. And Steven Adams hasn't played bad. Steven Adams has 7 blocks in this series. So does Serge Ibaka in half the games. But Steven Adams has 7 blocks. Shooting 7-14 from the floor. Now, he's shooting 30% from the free throw line. 4 of 13. That just boggles my mind. I don't, and I've said this before, and if I ever see Steve again and get him on the air, he'll back me up. There's no reason for anybody to miss free throws. It's the only shot that stays the same from your driveway to the NBA. 10 feet high, 15 feet away. Nobody in your face. It's all muscle memory. Or at least should be. But anywho. So now the Spurs are reeling. And Greg Popovich pulled his starters kind of early, even though, theoretically there still should have been a chance for them to come back. But it seems as if Popovich ran up the white flag. Well, and it's obvious. I mean, his team is older than dirt. Okay, so I get why. But, there's something about me where I get the concept of cutting your losses, especially with a team as old as the Spurs, and just living to fight another day. But I really think that in the third quarter is a little bit early to do that. I feel cheated as a fan when a team does that. Plays that way, does it that way. Now, Popovich has the jewelry. No one is going to second-guess his ability to coach. No one's going to second-guess his ability to game plan and strategize. And no one's going to question his competitive edge. And, of course, it's his team. He can do what he wants. But, God, I just wish that he wouldn't have given up so early. And the outcome could have very well been the same. Without a doubt. There's no guarantee that, Popovich making this decision didn't make them lose their game. But it sure seems like the competitive spirit was gone. A little too early for my taste. 585-633-7487 if you want to join the conversation. 585-633-7487. So now, looking through some of the... I'll try to keep you updated. It's now a 6-point game, 50-44 Heat. Miami Heat's Chris Bosh. Breaking news says he doesn't want to be a free agent next month. And says he doesn't want to go anywhere. Well, no crap, Chris. I mean, really. I mean, we've seen the Chris Bosh show and you've been the lone star, and it may have been slightly entertaining, but sure wasn't all that successful. I get why you don't want to go anywhere, Chris Bosh. Completely. I mean, it's bad enough. I mean, where would he be a good fit? He looked like the damn mascot in Toronto. He looks like a velociraptor. Look at him. Look at him. But yeah, Chris, I get why you don't want to go anywhere else. The question is, does LeBron feel the same way? And Dwayne Wade is a non-factor to me at this point. He can't carry a team by himself anymore. And lately, he hasn't been proven to be able to stay healthy for an entire season, the last couple of years. He has not been the same Dwayne Wade. Still a hell of a ball player. If they can keep the big three together, they will probably still be successful. But if I'm Bosh, I'm not looking at what Wade is doing to make up my mind. I'm watching LeBron. And I'm begging LeBron to stay. I just think it's funny. I don't want to go anywhere. I love it here. Yeah, you know why? Because you have never had it so good. You get to get all of the attention without really any of the pressure of being the guy. That's LeBron's team. I know the big three coming out with the smoke, when they were introduced and everything, put a lot of hype on them, and sure, I'm sure they feel the pressure to win championships. But at the end of the day, if the Heat don't win, it ain't coming down on Bosh. It ain't coming down on Wade. It's coming down on LeBron. And the two of them know that. Chris Bosh could take an ill-advised 3-point shot with the opposition up by 2 in Game 7 of an NBA Finals game and clank it. And all anybody will want to talk about is how LeBron should have done this or done that. That's just the way it goes. Pacers within 4 now in the third quarter. So, yeah, I get it, Bosh. Don't worry. And now, according to Ramona Shelburne, Donald Sterling responded forcefully Tuesday to the NBA's charges to terminate his ownership, while his estranged wife, Shelley Sterling, continued to move quickly to sell the team by the end of the week. He's going, according to his lawyer, Max Blecher, his client is going to fight to the bloody end. Well, that as wonderful as an image as that paints. I mean, is anybody, if you're Donald Sterling, okay, your estranged wife, you're not divorced. I understand how these things work. I also understand it's L.A. It's almost commonplace. The stereotype is that it's commonplace anyway. You have this much younger woman who is willing to make you think that she cares about you long enough for you to pass out in your grapefruit juice, and then turns around and just sells you right out to the press. It's like something out of late night TV back in the 80s, like out of Dallas or Falcon Crest or something stupid. And so let me ask you, and I know if you sell the Clippers, if you have the money that you want to buy the Clippers brand isn't harmed by this at all. Sterling looks like a jackass, but the Clippers brand, that team is up and coming still, as of right now. That team can still do things. They're going to make out like bandits if they sell. And let's be honest, Donald, you have to start thinking about, getting a will together. It's about that time. Make sure all of your funds are allocated to the appropriate family members and other blood-sucking whores you hang around with. Oh, did I say that? I did. I said it out loud. And that is my cue that it is time to take a break. When I come back, we're going to go around Major League Baseball. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Different time zones, baby. Go queen, your blood guessing, I'm confessing now, well, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're a riddle, I'm caught up in the middle of you. I'm trying to think bigger, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. I never know nobody like you. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're an enigma.
Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Having some mixer flare-ups, we'll call it, so hopefully we'll get through the show unscathed. Reminder that this and every broadcast, once again, is brought to you by CG Imaging. What do? Well, they bring your ideas to life, and they do it with 3D realistic animation and photography. Illustrations, rather. Say that maybe you are an inventor, you're filing for a patent, and you need something to take your concept and bring it, into that realm of this is what it's going to look like and this is what it's going to do. CG Imaging can do that for you. Maybe you're trying to sell an idea to your boss, and your words and your sketches just aren't doing it. CG Imaging can bring it to life. Go to cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. And I also want to talk about The Lockbox by Stephen Taylor, available on Amazon.com for the Kindle and also BarnesandNoble.com. For the last 85 years, a secret once thought lost has been hidden away from the world. Its whereabouts have been kept safe in the hands of one of America's greatest spies. But now, the shadow organization Echo has tracked down his location and to the small town of Shoshone Peak, and they will stop at nothing to get their hands on the map that will lead them to their prize. Across town, teens Sam and Emily Lana see an elderly neighbor walking with his silver lockbox and wonder what secrets are within it. Soon the two come into possession of the box and must find a way to stay alive while also finding answers to what secrets lie within the mysterious lockbox. The Lockbox by Stephen Taylor. Download it today. Alright, so Major League Baseball heading into summertime. Well, if you live in the Northeast, today was not a day that made you really fond of summer or made you think of those warm days at the beach reveling. No. 62-degree days, do not do that. Especially 62 days that you spend staining a deck outside and just throwing that out there. It is what it is. And today, folks, kids, let's start in the American League, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So, you have the Toronto Blue Jays leading the American League East, 31-22, with a 3-game lead on the Yankees, who, this is why the Yankees drive you crazy. Because this team, sure, Brian McCann's a nice catcher. Mark Teixeira, he's been out a couple games. Brian Roberts at second. Derek Jeter is, getting his batting average back up there, but he's slow. He had a very, very slow start. He's up to 269 going into tonight's action. Yanjavis Solarte at third base. I just like saying that name. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we'll just plop somebody in there that's hitting 285, slugging 436. And then you got Jacoby Ellsbury and Carlos Beltran, the big names and everything like that. But part of me wanted the A-Rod saga to really suck the blood out of this team a little bit longer. Apparently, they're not really missing the jackass formerly known as A-Rod. Solarte does have four errors so far, but as much as Derek Jeter, so. That's the ultimate, I guess that's the ultimate ace up your sleeve if you're a Yankee. Yeah, I got as many errors as Jeter does. Can't say anything about me. You say something to Jeter? I want to see you go. I want to see you say something to the captain. Want to see you try. So the Blue Jays, 31-22, on an 8-game winning streak. You knew eventually they had too much talent on that team, and they sucked so bad last year, but for various reasons, of course. But now they seem to, through May, anyway, remember, I keep stressing that baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. But through May, they seem to be putting it all together. They're first in runs scored, second in hits, first in homers, first in OPS. With their Achilles heel, if you will, they got to do something about that pitching staff. Ninth in the ERA, ninth in the league in ERA. Let me try that again, 4.18. But the first in saves, there's 9th in runs allowed, 10th in earned runs allowed, 14th in walks out of 15 AL teams. It's just not going to get it done. It's nice to knock the snot out of the ball, but sooner or later you have to pitch. The rotation, according to BaseballReference.com, Mark Burley, R.A. Dickey, Drew Hutchinson, Dustin McGowan, J.A. Happ, Brandon Morrow. Mark Burley, 9-1. 9-1 at age 35. I believe that falls into the category of more than we ever thought we'd get out of him. Take it and run. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Hapless Boston Red Sox bringing up the rear in that division, tied with the Tampa Bay Rays. It was a good run, wasn't it, Tampa fans? The park nobody wanted to come visit all of a sudden gets good and still can't fill it up. And, oh, look at, we're still good, though. We don't have any big names, but we're pretty good. Yeah. Boston is just, it's abysmal. Apparently Jacoby Ellsbury was the key to it all. Jackie Bradley and his .201 batting average in center field is not going to get it done, folks. Just not going to get it done. The Red Sox are 13th out of 15 in runs scored, 11th in slugging, 10th in OPS, 7th in ERA, just a shade under 4 going into tonight's action, 14th in hits. Just getting knocked around. The good thing about baseball and the bad thing about baseball is that there's statistics for everything. You can drown yourself in statistics in baseball. That's the good and the bad. Because there is that in-depth statistical analysis available. You can usually pinpoint what's really going on. Usually. But I want to talk about a Twitter exchange I had with my colleague Claire Mullins from NFLfemale.com. She has helped us out in the past with insight on the Texans, helped us out with our fantastic mock draft that we have. But she's obviously down in Houston and tweeted that she was excited about going to the Astros game tomorrow. And I try to, bust chops, whatever. The Astros are an interesting bird. 6-4 over their last 10, 11-9 in their last 20. Had some young bucks called up. George Springer hitting .268, got 8 home runs. 843 OPS. We'll take that. Not if you look at their stats, they were very slow out of the gate in April. 9-19, only scored 88 runs, but gave up 142. In May, with three less games in May going into tonight. 3 more wins, 6 less losses, but they've already scored 109 runs. Already scored 21 more runs than last month, but they've given up only 101 compared to 142 in April. That's what we call in business directionally correct. What does it mean? I don't know. I don't know if it means anything at this point, but for a team that has been in the basement, I mean, just bogged down to the point where it switched leagues and they still couldn't play. And I said it last year. If you couldn't hit in the National League, if you couldn't win in the National League, what are you going to do switching to the American League when there's an extra hitter you have to worry about? They just didn't have the talent, but give them credit. They didn't go out and dump a bunch of money just trying to make the big splash. Their big player right now, Scott Feldman, $12 million. Dexter Fowler, $7.35 million. Eligible for arbitration next year. There's no really gargantuan contracts for anybody that is approaching that dreaded, 30, the age of 30. And you look at Jason Castro, amateur draft. Jose Altuve, amateur free agent draft. Dallas Keuchel. I murdered his name. Amateur draft. Josh Fields, Rule 5 draft. They're doing things the right way from the ground up. And I personally like it when franchises take that approach. Why do I like it? Because I'm a Mets fan, and we very rarely have ever done that. And we have dumped money on the wrong guys at the wrong time who just are in the wrong situation and just either can't or don't perform. So if you're a Houston fan, enjoy it. Because it's been 2-3 years of just absolute living hell. What happened to the Phil Garner Astros? America's Okay, so they were never really America's darlings, but they made it to the World Series. And my board is acting up again. They made it to the World Series when no one thought they would, so maybe they weren't ever America's darlings, but they played the game, that kind of Phil Garner way, punch you in the mouth and steal a base. So, here's hoping the Astros have turned the tide. Right now they sit still at 21-32, 10.5 games back of Oakland, who's a nice story as well. And then the Seattle Mariners, 10 games back would be their... 5.5 games back would be their next target, I guess, which they just won a couple games from. So, heading over to the National League East, you have the Atlanta Braves at 28-23. The Marlins are a game and a half behind them, even though were dealt that blow with Fernandez out for the year. The Nationals, the 3 games back. The Mets and Phillies tied for 5 games back going into today's action. And so, Marlins ace Jose Fernandez blows out his elbow. The Mets, Matt Harvey blows out his. Tommy John surgeries all around. Steven had his issues. When does it stop? When do we start worrying about how innings these kids are really throwing? Not in Little League. Little League has a pretty good, to my recollection anyway, of limiting innings pitched by young arms. But once these kids get into college, even high school has some limits, but once they get into college, it's a freaking free-for-all. There's one that I tweeted the coach should be fired because he had the kid throw 160, 170, some ungodly amount of pitches. There's just no reason for it. So, if I'm baseball, this is my concussion issue. Football has its own problems with its concussion issue and the amount of ex-players that can't remember why they walked into a room. If I'm baseball, this is my health concern because you have very talented stars that are now shelved for entire seasons coming back from Tommy John surgery. That can't be what you're looking for. These flash-in-the-pan guys that may or may not be back. What if you're the Mets? What do you do if Matt Harvey doesn't come back to what he was last year before the injury? Because guess what? Zach Wheeler is not living up to the status everyone had. Noah Syndergaard has a minor injury in the minors, no pun intended. If you're the Mets and Matt Harvey doesn't come back to what he was, you're back to square one. It's just a fact. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So if I'm baseball, I'm very concerned about the amount of young star elbows that are getting blown out. Not strained, not sprained, not a little ice here. No, Tommy John surgery. You're transplanting ligaments to keep these guys going. The NL Central, the Milwaukee Brewers hanging on, 31-22. They are 4-6 in their last 10, losing a little bit of steam. They started out very hot. The St. Louis Cardinals coming on a game and a half behind. The Pittsburgh Pirates, 23-28. The Cincinnati Reds, 22-28, despite Johnny Cueto being the best pitcher in the game right now. And then the lowly Cubbies, 10.5. Johnny Cueto, going into tonight's action, I don't think he was pitching. A 1.83 ERA in 11 games started. He's got 3 complete games, 2 shutouts. Okay, a whip of .753, which is insane for a starting pitcher. Okay, he's struck out 85, walked 20. Okay, given up 43 hits in 83 innings pitched, and he's got a 4-4 record. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because they are 14th in runs scored, 12th in hits, 11th in on-base percentage, 12th in OPS, 11th in batting average. Can't score any runs. You got a guy pitching as lights out as anybody has ever played this game. And you can't give him the run support that he needs. You can't take advantage. Joey Votto, Brandon Phillips, Zach Cozart, Ryan Ludwig, Jay Bruce. Those guys should be able to hit. Those guys have done it in the past. Very, very frustrating to watch a team just absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Ignore, not be able to support a season, a performance like Johnny Cueto is having. He's pretty much been the lone bright spot in the rotation. Mike Leake's been okay. Alfredo Simon, or Simone, or however you say his name. He's been. I shouldn't say Johnny Cueto's the only one. He's been another one. 33 years old though. How much are you going to get out of him the rest of the way? 6-3 right now. 2.9 ERA. 1.097 WHIP. Can't complain with that. But when your relievers, J.J. Hoover, Manny Parra, and Logan Andrzejczyk all have ERAs over 5. On top of not being able to score, you just wrap it up. If that doesn't turn around, just wrap it up. This is going to be a very long summer for Reds fans. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to hear it from me. I wouldn't want to hear it from me either. It just is. Digging into the NL West, San Francisco Giants 33-19. 6-3 over the last 10. The Dodgers 4.5 games back. Nice no-hit performance by Josh Beckett. A little help from the home plate umpire. But a no-hitter is a no-hitter. Colorado Rockies and the Humidor working their magic, 28-24. San Diego Padres, 9.5. And the Arizona Diamondbacks. The epitome of mediocre, 21-33. However, in their last 10, they're 5-5. In their last 20, they're 10-10. And in their last 30, guess what? They're 15-15. Just can't get over the hump. If there is a team that has ever been against opening the season overseas, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have not responded. Have not responded at all since starting the season in Australia. Well, who could blame them? I'm not a big fan of regular season contests being played out of the country. You screw up the whole rhythm. And baseball is a rhythm game as much as anything. Every sport, to a degree, is a rhythm sport. You know, you get in a groove, things are going well. But baseball, you need to play and you need to know what to expect just about every day. That's why some people can't, some people don't cope with, you can't be not everybody can be a pinch hitter. You have to be able to keep yourself in a rhythm even when you're not playing. And it's a very underrated thing to do. Not everybody can do it. And if you have a bunch of guys on that team that are like that, then starting the season overseas was the worst thing that could happen. And now they're just treading water. 500 over the last month. What would you rather have? A season that you knew you were going to suck at? Or a season where you limped along 500, win some, lose some, win some, lose some? That just keeps your hope alive long enough to just gouge out your heart. Stomp on it. Hold it up to the sky like that guy in the Temple of Doom. Molaram, Sigaram, Molaram, Sigaram. I don't know. I really don't know. In sports, hope is everything, but it's just torture. It's just torturous. I don't know which one I prefer. I really don't. All right, let's take another break. When I come back, Jim Saranteas from thefantasygreek.com will join me for the NFL Hour. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Maybe I could offer There's no more tears, no feelings like before. And now my heart is made of stone, and you'll never turn me on into broken hearted lying on the floor. And now your soul is torn in two. You are lost, you are mad, feeling sad. You crazy broken dreams are never coming back. Now you see how it feels when you're down on your knees and your soul is torn in two. Now you know how it feels when you're down on your knees and your heart is bleeding, now so strong. Don't believe it anymore. You can never turn me on. There's no more lies, there's no more pain, no suffering like before. So you've got the sleepless nights, and tears are clouding up your eyes, and your broken heart and lying on the floor. And now your soul is torn in two. You are lost, you are mad, feeling sad. Your crazy broken dreams are never coming back. And now you see how it feels when you're down on your knees and your soul is torn in two. And now you know how it feels when you're down on your knees and your heart is bleeding, now so strong. And now your soul is torn in two. You are lost, you are mad, feeling sad. Your crazy broken dreams are never coming back. Now you see how it feels when you're down on your knees and your soul is torn in two. And now you know how it feels when you're down on your knees and your heart is bleeding, now so strong.
You're listening to 87 Sports Fans Radio. Play, don't come bitching to us. 87 live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Thank you all for joining us. And it is at this hour that I am once again joined by the illustrious Jim Saranteas from thefantasygreek.com. Follow him on Twitter. The call sign is @thefantasygreek. Jim, welcome back to the program.
Keith, it's great to be here. It seems like it's been too long, but it's really only been 2 weeks.
Like two of the longest weeks of my life. I opened the show with a little anecdote so I won't bleed everybody's ears again. I am just beat, physically and emotionally. But anyway, no dogs were hurt in the production of this program, so I know you were worried about that. Little inside joke there. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
So, hey, what's happening?
Not a lot. I was going to tell you I cooked dinner for my wife tonight.
What was the dish of choice?
It's this Greek dish, which I right now I would need to have the words in front of me to repeat it in Greek. But it's basically orzo topped with some tomato sauce, shrimp, feta cheese. It's just one of the easiest things I've ever made in my life. I mean, it takes a little work because you got to prepare some onions and some tomatoes, and shell the shrimp itself, which I'm sure to East Coast people is not a big deal, but to us Midwesterners, what are shrimp? And it all comes together, and it just came together beautifully tonight.
Is shrimp really that much of a delicacy out there?
I don't know that it's a delicacy, but I didn't grow up with shrimp myself personally. It's something that I've enjoyed now that I'm an older person.
Cultured,
yes.
Older and cultured.
Cultured.
All right, so I thought that we would go through some fantasy winners and losers in the wake of the draft, and then we have our usual, our new usual, the way we end the program with cold cock, and I made a little something.
And I say it's all just talk, unless it's the one they call cold cock.
Yeah, I just read it. I am so proud of myself for making that earlier. But anyway, let's talk about the big breaking news lately, anyway, in the last couple of days, and that would be the loss of Sean Lee to the Dallas defense. Now, my personal take, and that's why I bring you on for some sanity, is that the Dallas defense really probably shouldn't have been on anybody's radar fantasy-wise, and this just kind of hammers that point home. What's your take on that?
Well, when you sent me the question in advance, I honestly thought it was a trick question. I had to run back and say, did I miss something? Is there something to this defense that, unbeknownst to me, they might actually make a difference this year? And, there isn't. Without Sean Lee was probably the bright spot on the defense, at least for now, because Henry Melton, quite frankly, is still a question mark. It's unclear. It doesn't sound like he's been allowed to return to practice yet. He's still rehabbing from his injury from last year. So, outside of them and a secondary that was just toasted and burnt alive last season, it's hard to look around here and say that this defense is going to make a difference this season. So, quite frankly, I don't see the loss of Sean Lee meaning much of anything, except they'll need to fill that spot, and they're probably going to need to go get a free agent to do that.
Maybe in an IDP league. Maybe. He was.
Well, Sean Lee would hurt you if you had him in an IDP.
Have you ever played in an IDP league?
Have I?
Yeah.
No. But I get the concept. I understand what the point is.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I created one, and we had 40-man rosters. I went nuts. I had a starter in every position but offensive line, and it was just crazy. I don't know how anybody does like serious IDP. I know most leagues have 2 or 3 if you do it, but phew, it was crazy.
Yeah, but I will say this: the Cowboys' offense looks really good this season.
No, I'll save that for Colcock. Never mind. All right. Yes, they do.
And because of the defense, they're going to be forced to throw the ball and just put up as many points as possible.
So I should keep Des Bryant in my dynasty league, is what you're saying.
You should.
Okay.
Yes, you should.
There were some games last year where I was tempted to use him as trade bait. I'm just throwing that out there. If there's any owners in my league that are listening. All right. So out of all of the draftees, and again, what a phenomenal couple of days around the draft that we had. And again, I'll thank you on the air publicly for allowing me to be part of the festivities as far as the mock draft and our draft day coverage and all the work that you did on your end for City Year in Chicago. And the week after the show, when we broke down the draft with all of that kind of percolating in your head and now kind of settling, can you give me 3 rookies from this draft that will be fantasy impact players next year?
I'll give you 2 for sure, and the third one I had a hard time with, but you and I could probably hash that out. My first rookie fantasy football player that I think you can target him in fantasy drafts, and I think he should be a breakout player, is Bishop Sankey, running back for the Titans. Look at his situation. CJ2K is gone. Sean Green, he's basically hobbled. He had off-season surgery. I think he's a player that may not be. He's certainly not going to be ready for OTAs and mini camp. We'll see what happens, but it sounds like he's less than 100%. And not since his days at the Jets has he been a starting running back, and even then he wasn't the greatest. So he's got those things in his favor. And the other thing he has is in his favor is this offense that Ken Weisenhunt is bringing to the Titans. You can look at how many times the Titans ran the ball last year, and that was 462 times. But you have to look at how many times the Chargers did, and that was 486 times. It's in both instances. I mean, those are a lot of touches, a lot of carries. So you could see a player like Bishop Sankey getting 285 carries, 50 receptions. That just is buckaroo in fantasy football. And, for him to have 300 carries wouldn't necessarily be a surprise. But he also is going to carry injury risk just like most running backs, but his is going to be because of his size. He's 5'9", 209 pounds. But still, I think he's probably the number one fantasy football rookie that should have a very big impact next season.
All right, and then on the flip side of that, oh wait, you got two more to go.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a moment if you wanted to throw something in or ask a question. Okay.
He was on my radar too. I don't know about Weisenhunt's offense being running back friendly, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that.
Well, but see, I think that's deceptive. If you look at how many times the Chargers ran the ball last year, it is running back friendly.
Okay.
So, especially in this instance. So, my number two guy is going to be Mike Evans, Buccaneers, wide receiver. I can't think of a wide receiver out there that is in a better situation than him, except for a couple. But Mike Evans definitely has the best situation. He's going to be lining up against Vincent Jackson, who's going to command more than likely the top coverage, so he's not even going to get the best player. There's nobody else really on the depth chart to challenge him to be the number two wide receiver on the team. And he's going to have Josh McCown throwing him the football. Now, while I don't see this being necessarily the Mark Trestman offense that we saw with the Bears, the reality is he's 6'4", 231 pounds. I mean, he is a big boy, and it's going to bring back memories to Josh, and let's say even Mike Lennon if he gets an opportunity to throw the ball, of Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, and I think Mike Evans could thrive in this offense. I like him for 60 receptions as a rookie. Let's call it 990 yards and 7 TDs. I mean, everything points to that kind of a season for him. Now, my last one I had a lot of sort of issues with, because I think at least the guys that I picked out, and you might have different fellows on your end for the third spot, I don't think they have perfect situations. So, for example, Sammy Watkins is a player that I think can do very well as a rookie, even in a Buffalo Bills offense, if they don't pass the ball. Well, let me rephrase that. If the Bills do not let E.J. Manuel throw the ball out, I still think Sammy Watkins should be good to go for 60, 65 receptions and 1,000 yards receiving. But it would help if they do let E.J. Manuel do it. And my personal thinking on it is that they will. I mean, this isn't going to be some version of Eric Coryell, but it's going to be a lot better than what we saw from E.J. Manuel last year. And another player that I like is Devin Street, wide receiver for the Cowboys. The thing that you have to love about, I mean, he's going to have a little competition for that third wide receiver spot, but the reality is the third wide receiver on the Cowboys always seems to get their due. After, the best coverage rolls to Des Bryant, you got Terrence Williams, who's going to be the number 2 wide receiver, then you got Jason Witten. The third wide receiver always seems to just get his share. So I like Devin Street sort of to sneak in there. I don't know that he'll be a draft pick, but I think he's a guy that people will be eyeing definitely on the waiver wire after the season begins. And another person to watch, even though I don't know that his quarterback is going to have that great of a year, is Kelvin Benjamin for the Panthers. He's walking into a great situation where he's got just a few veterans ahead of him. None of them have really been impact wide receivers, except maybe for Jericho Cotchery back in the late 2000s. He's another big-bodied wide receiver, comes in at 6'5", 230, 240 pounds. He's athletic. He can catch everything that comes his way. He's a player that, as things settle down and we get into training camp, if he arises as the starter, he's another player you got to think is going to be good for 60 receptions and 1,000 yards. But I think that's a wait-and-see sort of proposition.
I like the Sammy Watkins pick, personally. But probably not for normal reasons. I'm probably gonna irritate the crap out of you right now, which sometimes I like to do.
Never.
I like Sammy Watkins because of the amount of times that the Bills ran the ball last year. Because they have the backs that can tote the load in Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller. And I think that if they do that and are successful, last year they were number 1 in attempts, I believe. Yes, number 1 in the NFL in attempts and second in rushing yards last season. So if it's game planned right, and you have to assume, I guess, that nobody goes into these things being a complete idiot. If it's game planned right, that could dictate a lot of favorable coverages for Watkins, especially with now Mike Williams, formerly from Tampa Bay, formerly from Syracuse with Doug Marrone, who ironically didn't get along with Mike Williams at Syracuse. But Mike Williams is, I don't want to say he's a proven quantity, but he has shown flashes that he can play in this league. So with the two of them opposite each other, theoretically, I think that Watkins may be poised for, if indeed he is the real deal like everybody says he is, a big year. The only question mark I have is E.J. Manuel's arm, whether he can take care of, capable of making Watkins a vertical threat. He was, if you look at ProFootballFocus.com, he was positively rated in the 10 to 19 range, but once he got past 20 yards downfield, very unsuccessful. So it's kind of a wait and see, but I think Watkins really could have a big year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, he could have a big year. That's why I thought picking the third player was very difficult, because I think there's some factors that need to sort of develop, and some things that need to come to fruition for to happen.
Mm-hmm. And you're to also touch on the pick about the Cowboys. It is always the third wide receiver that seems to garner enough of the stats to make us Des Bryant owners and last year Miles Austin owners just kind of irritated at the world.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that.
Well, thank God.
I know you were worried. I know you were nervous.
Yeah, I have my tissue paper right here.
Yeah.
It's just waiting to.
Oh, Keith said he didn't agree with me. All right, so on the flip side of that equation, are there, maybe three players that were decent last year, but now this year might be a whole different story?
Yeah. Well, the first one I think is to me is the most obvious one, and that's going to be Eric Decker. Say what you will. I mean, he could surprise us all, but I mean, lots going to depend on his quarterback play. I think he's a better player with Michael Vick under center than he would be with Geno Smith. I have a hard time. I mean, I don't believe that he will post 12 touchdowns or whatever just crazy number he posted last season. That ain't going to happen. And I would even dare say he might struggle to get to 1,000 yards. So that having been said, if you do draft Eric Decker, think to yourself that 900, maybe 6 to 8 touchdowns might be really what you're getting from him. Second player that I think you pretty much have to look at his situation that he's walking into and say it's going to hurt him outright. Will be Deshaun Jackson. Last season, he had a career season with 85 receptions and roughly 1,300 some odd yards. That's not going to happen again. He's another player I see coming in more at about 60 receptions and somewhere in that 800 to 1,000 yards receiving, which probably puts him more as a wide receiver 3. And it'll also hurt Pierre Garçon as well. And he was at, 112 receptions and 1,300 yards receiving, but I just don't see it as much. He was clearly a favorite of Robert Griffin III. I don't see how that changes. He's always the player he looks to when he needs help. And if anything, what should help him and what could create, not getting him necessarily back to last year's numbers, but certainly help him is some of the double coverage will have to ship over to Deshaun Jackson. My third player, and I don't think this is any surprise to anyone, is Antonio Gates. In fact, I'm not even sure that he's worth drafting this season. Here's a player that had 800 yards receiving, 7 TDs last season, but most of that came right at the beginning of the season. I mean, I want to say it's 6 out of the last 8 games or 8 out of the last 10 games, something like that. He caught under 50 yards receiving in each game. And, I mean, that's just not the kind of tight end that you want. Plus, you have Ladarius Green, who should be coming up in this offense. He's highly athletic. If he hasn't learned it by now, what this offense is all about, then, you know, I suppose the Chargers will have to look elsewhere next year. But I would think that that's where most of the tight end office will sort of direct itself. Ladarius Green he's just tall, he's athletic, long arms, he's just a freak in that sense. But if that one doesn't surprise you as much as the next player I'm just going to mention ever so briefly, is another player I'm very concerned about, and I think he'll probably get overdrafted a little bit, is Cam Newton. And I mention that because that offensive line doesn't look very good. And I think the effect on him will be to hurt his passing game, and the effect will be to hurt the running game. So it's one of these things where the whole team could suffer offensively. And I would not call him a top 5 quarterback next season. And top 10, I think, might even be pushing it a little bit.
So, but you thought Kelvin Benjamin might have a decent...
For a rookie.
Okay.
And also as the number 1 receiver. If you can get a rookie 60 balls, 1,000 yards receiving wouldn't be out of the question.
Right.
But if your quarterback only tosses 3,200 yards, 18, 20 TDs, gets you a few on the ground, that's not necessarily a good thing.
They're looking at an offensive line now with 3 undrafted free agents, according to ourlads.com. And it doesn't really matter. I keep waiting for Jonathan Stewart to come back to full strength, but you really can't put any stock in that. And so it's on D'Angelo Williams, who is entering his 8th season, if I'm doing the math right in my head. So he's getting very close to that dangerous age for running backs.
Oh, he's beyond it. He'll turn 32 in June.
When did he graduate college? How old was he when he graduated college?
Oh, I don't know.
Right, actually, no, he turned 31 in April. His birthday is April 25th.
Okay, well, 31. That's fine.
So he's over it. Regardless, he's past that magic milestone where the tread starts coming off the tire a little bit.
But what they got from him last year, they were lucky to get. It was bonus.
Right.
It was a bonus. If any running backs, I think, have a shot, an opportunity to make some noise, and they're sleepers in my eyes, it'll be between Kenjon Barner, who last year didn't really play much. He was nicked up almost all season, or Tyler Gaffney, who they just drafted. Tyler Gaffney is a great running back. If you watch any film on him, you'll see he's sort of a Matt Forte type, makes great cuts, has great vision. He can shed a tackle like nobody's business. And so I think he's sort of a sleeper out there and might be worth a late-round draft pick, depending how things start panning out as we get closer to the season.
All right, you want to talk about a team that is going to be absolutely, completely, 100% dependent on their defense being lights out, it's got to be the Panthers.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
If they end up getting in a shootout with anybody, they're not going to be able to keep up. They just don't have the weapons. It doesn't matter how good Cam Newton is. If Cam Newton goes out and has a rating of 120 in every game, if they have to score 20, 25 to 30 points a game to win, they're not going to. I just don't see how you can expect that. So, and again, maybe I'm not saying they're expecting it. I'm saying if this defense doesn't hit, and Greg Hardy's got his issues off the field, and I don't think it's decided whether or not he's going to be available. They drafted Coney Ely in the second round in the draft, but he's still a rookie. So, are you going to have the pass rush you had last year? We don't know yet, at least early on. The linebackers are as solid as ever, and the secondary should be, better than decent as well. Thomas DeCoud comes over from Atlanta. Antoine Cason is at right cornerback, undrafted or unrestricted free agent from Arizona. You should be able to be. I don't want to say lights out too much, but that defense should be stout.
Oh yeah.
The question.
Yeah, and they've taken steps to improve their secondary. That's what's impressive. So now you don't necessarily have a front seven that completely depends on the front. I'm sorry, the back four completely depending on the front seven.
Roman Harper's listed as the second string strong safety. So if he's using it in a nickel or a dime, most likely a nickel package, that's a hell of a leader to have on the field in a nickel package.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of experience.
Yeah,
that's a nice way of saying he's old.
Yeah, it very much is. Very nice way. God bless you.
Don't ever let anybody say that I don't have feelings.
Feelings.
Yeah. Feelings, nothing more than feelings. All right, that's my cue. Let's take a break, and when we come back, it's time for your favorite and my favorite segment. It's time for Cold Cock. We'll be right back. This is 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Hey, there goes Joan Jett, Woke up to some wailing, was Van Halen on my radio. Parachute pants, skinny ties, Michael J. Fox, family ties, 1984. Radio. Don't want no more 90s shit. Nirvana was cool and maybe Pearl Jam, but that was it. Give me Springsteen, rock and roll, Cheap Trick, not Oingo Boingo. Hey, Joey Ramone, leave Michael Jackson at home. Radio. show. The alarm, boombox hanging on my arm. Radio, 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 radio. Radio, 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 radio.
couches ain't what it used to be. Now it's all tight muscles and cramp confession. I could teach you how to open up a bottle with a lighter, but I'd be damned if I'm ever gonna learn my lesson. Sometimes whiskey tastes like my grandfather's shirt. That ashtray's looking like a headache, right? And Brodigan is in the kitchen sitting listening in. Like, bring it, bitch! It's all clicking on a late night. I like the way it feels when my jaw clenches, and I like the way you talk out of the back of your mouth. And you just brought out all of your pictures of the moon. It'd be a shame to have to take them back to your house now. I know you're gonna feel the same way that I do when I get back to my room. See, there's a voice inside you telling you exactly what you're missing. Yeah, and all that I'm asking is that you listen to it like, hey, don't go to sleep. We can do anything you want. Stay up with me. Hey, don't go to sleep. We can do anything you want. Stay up with me. We can ride this out until the wheels are worn and metal shows. Climb up to the apartment rooftop and let them know. See, all I brought some smokes and a pack of cards. I can't give you a ride, but I can lift you on these handlebars. Get up, I got a lot of love to give. Every night I channel Greek punishment and run with it. Get up, let's BB gun the stars down. Let your landlord know this is ours now. When it's golden, the way you keep looking at me sideways. It's golden, the way your hands are wrapped around that drink. It's golden, but you can't sing but do it anyway. It's golden, the color that wine paints your teeth. It's golden, how the summertime gets all balled up. Golden, the way the ink you got looks so fresh. Golden, everything's a mess, but I'm telling you I'm golden, cause I'm not even here yet. Hey, don't go to sleep. We can do anything you want. Stay up with me. Hey, don't go to sleep. We can do anything you want. Stay up with me.
Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Jim Saranteas and Keith Grieve taking you through the last segment of the program, folks. Don't get all teary-eyed on me. I know it's a long week until we come back. But first, I want to remind you that this and every broadcast is brought to you by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. And it's also brought to you by The Lockbox by Stephen Taylor. Available on Amazon.com for your Kindle and also through BarnesandNoble.com.
And as a reader of that book, I want to give it the thumbs up. I endorse that book. You go out there and buy it and read it.
It is a good read.
It is a good read.
And the sequel's coming out soon. The sequel,
really?
The sequel's in the works. I have it on Inside Source that the sequel is definitely closer to completion than it was yesterday.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's how I said soon, but soon is such a vague term.
Certainly.
Wordsmith that I am. All right, and now it's time for my new favorite segment, and that's Cold Cock. And if you're listening, you're wondering what the hell is he meaning. It was based on an old SNL commercial spoof for malt liquor called Cold Cock. I made this little soundbite to kind of...
And I say it's all just talk, unless it's the one they call Cold Cock.
Cold cock, cold cock.
Drop. Fantastic. Cold Cock's the one you'll never see coming.
Cold Cock. You never see it coming.
Damn.
So I will go down the NFL headlines in any order I see fit. And, Jim, I want your unrehearsed, unprepared reaction to it. Okay?
You got it.
All right, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, really, I don't know what he's about to ask me.
Okay. Aaron Hernandez pleads not guilty. Do you believe him?
Oh, my God. That is so awful.
It is.
Well, put it this way. Based on the evidence as it's been put forward by the prosecution, no, I don't believe him.
I don't either. Again, obviously there might be something we don't know, haven't seen, but from if you try to read the tea leaves and connect the dots, he's guilty of sin. All right, Johnny Manziel goes to Las Vegas. He says it's a non-story and doesn't care what people say. Do you agree with that, or should he be playing his cards closer to the vest?
What do you mean by playing his cards closer to the vest?
Being a little bit more conservative he's already got that persona that he's the wild child. Should he play it a little bit more conservative and put forth a more professional image?
Yeah, I do. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with him doing that. He's a grown man. He's making a ton of money. So God bless him. I actually don't see anything wrong with him celebrating, if that was the point of it. But as far as it's time to get down to business, it's time for him to be serious. If he does that to relax once in a while, like Michael Jordan used to, God bless him. I see no problem with that. But in all other respects, he needs to be business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you get drafted and he makes the money sign up and everything, and I love the story that came out after the draft that he texted the Browns saying, I wish you guys would come get me. I want to wreck this league together. I like that kind of moxie. Whether or not I feel he's actually capable of it is another story, but I like that kind of moxie. But you go to Vegas, like you said, it's totally you're right, but everyone's going to be waiting for you to. Why would you put yourself in that situation? You know what I mean? Everyone's going to be waiting for you to, or somebody you're with to make a mistake. And, this time it didn't happen, thank God. But why would you, my dad had a saying, never put your manhood in somebody else's hands. Okay? I cleaned that up a little bit for the radio. But, why would you even throw him out there? But I guess that's just me. He's back in one piece, no major scandals yet. More power to him.
I was going to say the bigger story to me is not that he went to Vegas, but it would be what did he do while he was there?
Yeah, if you're trying to follow him around, you're doing an awful bad job of it because we're only finding out about this after he already came back.
Yeah, so the reporters need something to write about. It's a slow time of the off season.
It really is sad, honestly.
Yeah, seriously.
According to Tim McMahon at ESPNDallas.com, Des Bryant believes he's earned the right to rank among the NFL's highest-paid wide receivers and hopes to sign a long-term contract extension with the Dallas Cowboys before the season begins. Do you agree?
Yes. He's elite, man. That guy can throw the jump ball, he'll go get it, you know? I mean, I don't think you could ever question his talent.
Do you think the Cowboys are more over a barrel now that Miles Austin has come and gone?
You mean not having him on the team?
Yeah. I mean, even last year, he wasn't Miles Austin of the year before, or even 2 years before.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Austin really hasn't contributed the last couple of seasons, so, yeah, I can't even answer that question because he's really not a part of it. I think this is Des Bryant's team in terms of the wide receivers right now.
I mean, it's pretty obvious there's nobody near his talent.
Yeah.
But do you feel like renegotiating your deal, like you should just buck up and just... I mean, I guess the NFL is a little bit of a sticky wicket, for lack of a better term, because of the lack of guaranteed contracts. So you get your money where you can. But what's your take on renegotiating deals?
Well, I think if the team wants to do them, I think it's a great move to save money off the salary cap and on a player that you want long term, and to bring other talent onto the team to make your team a winner. And certainly the Cowboys, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't want Des Bryant on their team for the next 10 years. And they've got a lot of holes to fill. So, you know, I don't see anything wrong with it for everyone involved.
All right, moving on to the New York Jets. According to Rich Cimini from ESPN.com, the New York Jets quarterback competition is open. No, it's closed. Check that. It's open. Actually, it depends on who you ask. A disconnect between Michael Vick and the organization already has developed, with each side offering a different take on the Vick-Geno Smith quarterback situation. If Rex Ryan doesn't get this right, is he gone?
Yes, I think he's gone.
Can the Jets really afford any more chaos that isn't the direct result of Rex Ryan? I mean, you look at Tim Tebow 2 years ago, bringing him in, and you know they kept in him and Sperano saying that they had come up with a Tim Tebow package, and Week 17 comes and goes, and no one had ever seen a Tim Tebow package. I don't like the way that sounds. I got to come up with a better phrase. But no one saw Tim Tebow really perform, and so there was always that kind of press hovering around the Jets, and that season was a debacle. And last season they go out and they get Geno Smith, and they trot Mark Sanchez out there initially, and then all of a sudden it's Geno's team when Sanchez gets hurt, and now Sanchez is gone. And so they bring in Michael Vick, and there's always this. Personally, I thought it was a big mistake to bring in a person. When I say personality, I don't mean like Michael Vick is a jerk or anything like that, but he's a starter that has had some success in the past. So bringing that into that locker room, I think, was just a huge mistake from a chemistry standpoint. What do you think?
I like the fact that they brought Michael Vick, and Geno Smith really needs a veteran, somebody to sort of kind of tell him, here's how you should carry yourself every day. Here's how you should approach your work day. It's not to say that Geno Smith wasn't doing that to begin with, but I think we've all. I mean, I look back on my life, and I would say that I've had different mentors or different people that invested some of their time and energy into me, and the people that did that I appreciate so much in my life. And I think that's sort of the same thing. If you can find that in the NFL, especially as a quarterback, that will help you tremendously with your career. If you cannot find it, your career is likely done before it ever really got started. I mean, Geno Smith might as well then say to himself, well, maybe I'll get a couple more shots to start, but then I'm a backup for the next 10 years of my life. So, I like the fact that they brought Michael Vick, and I don't think they had too many options. So take what you can, and here's a guy that turned his life around. And I think that's not a bad guy to have. Personally, I'd like to see him be the quarterback, but that's a different story.
All right. Detroit Lions, Michael Rothstein from ESPN.com. Calvin Johnson would not talk about his injuries last season. He would miss practice, and he felt that affected his playing game. Now in May, with his knees and finger healed, Johnson talked briefly about the problems his injuries caused him last season. Apparently, he had to get his right knee drained every week. The finger was stuck at 90 degrees. Do you think Calvin Johnson's issues last year were just those injuries, or is there more going on in Detroit?
I have no reason to believe that there's anything else going on in Detroit outside of what you mentioned in terms of his injuries. I couldn't even imagine what they are. I mean, he's the man. This is his team, and you know, if there's something else going on, please tell me.
Now, who did they get for their head coach? I'm blanking out.
Oh, it was the former offensive coordinator for the Ravens, who was the former head coach of the Colts. It's coming.
Jim Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell, thank you. Yes. Did your screen refresh faster than mine?
Wow, my brain, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really proud of it.
And if I'm coughing in anybody's ear right now, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. It's just, ugh.
It seems like there's a lot of stories about players with legal trouble in the news today. Marcel Darius downplaying his, saying that some of the reports put out by the media were wrong. T.J. Ward, who just joined the Broncos this offseason after leaving Cleveland, was charged last week with misdemeanor assault and disturbing the peace at a Denver strip club. I don't understand. I mean, I get why guys go to strip clubs. I'm not talking about that. But when you're a high-profile athlete, if you're going to go to a strip club, rent the place out. You know what I mean? Drop the dime, close it down, just have a private party for you and your friends if you're going to do that. Why are you going to create all this drama in your life? It's like Plaxico Burress bringing a gun into a bar. If you're going into a bar that requires you to carry a gun, you're in the wrong kind of place. You're a grown man now. You know, my feelings toward that is more like your decision leading up to the event played more into it than your decision making in the actual event. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of.
Maybe it's a sign I'm just getting old.
No, I understand what you mean. I think the critical issue for some of these players is their age. You and I think, realize that there comes a point where, hey, we don't go to that kind of place anymore. Or if we do, it's once in a great while, you know.
I don't tell my wife about it.
Go for yucks or go, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm happy going to a local restaurant, sitting at the bar with my wife on a Friday and having a couple cocktails and our dinner and calling it a night at 8 o'clock. So the days of the things that younger players do, I feel for them, like you brought up Plaxico Burress and bringing a gun with them, because it's a sign that they're worried about trouble finding them, which means they must go to places where there are people saying, hey, you know, I heard your Plaxico Burress and blah, 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 you know, you can't take me and da-da-da, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, I feel for them, and like you said, I think once that starts happening, you have to go to yourself, you know, these are the kinds of places I can't go to anymore.
Yeah, you got money and you just want to party. Maybe it's from jealousy. Maybe it's really jealousy, I guess.
Well, what's worse is he's married. He shouldn't be there. I mean,
just looking.
I suppose. I mean, you know, if you and I go hang out, we're just going to go to a bar. We're not going to go to a club. We're not going to go, you know.
Right. I guess to each his own.
But it has to do with age and culture. It's certainly not. And that's why I think a lot of these players get the second degree from reporters and are the bane of fans, you know, and fans just go after them for these kinds of things. Because the way we perceive it is, hey, if I had all that money, I wouldn't be doing what you were doing.
Right. And that's exactly what it is.
But everybody says, hey, if I have all that money, I don't want to change. I still want to be myself.
Yeah, because when you're sitting on the sidelines, it's easy to talk out both sides of your mouth.
That's correct.
All right, final headline here.
Let's make it a good one, so people listening, wow, they can finish on just a really good high note.
I want your philosophical opinion here. Okay.
Ooh.
sadly, Malcolm Glazer, Buccaneers owner, passed away earlier today. It was announced. What do you... How do I want to ask this now? What is Glazer's legacy in the NFL, as just from a football standpoint, in your eyes?
Was he the original owner that started the Buccaneers?
No, he purchased it in the mid-'90s, I think.
Yeah. I think he'll always be remembered for bringing in John Gruden and turning that team around and making it into the Super Bowl champs that they were. Unfortunately, with all the things that happened recently, I know Bucs fans weren't particularly happy. But wow, this year this team really looks like they got things straightened out. So hopefully that will be his legacy, and that people will remember him for that. Because, I couldn't imagine what it's like owning a team. Because first of all, if you're in a position to own an NFL football team, you've got to be a busy person, so you don't have time to read the paper necessarily every day, to watch every broadcast, to hear what every single analyst says about you and your coaches and your players. So you hear it from the sources, and you're reacting to those sources, as opposed to something that's been filtered and vetted by 20 people before finally somebody speaks up in a TV broadcast or writes a view in an op-ed in a newspaper. I think it's a tough thing to be an owner of one of these teams that certainly has been in the public eye. I can't speak for the people of Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg. I've been out there, and it's interesting how it's set up geographically, and whether or not they're as big of football fans as I feel that they are. I don't know it for a fact, but I feel that they are. Hopefully they could see it in that light, and when this team turns itself around under Lovie Smith and is hopefully contending for a Super Bowl, that's how he'll be remembered.
Yeah, Glazer purchased the team in 1995. And so the Buccaneers were in existence from 1976 to 95. And in those years, they made the playoffs 3 times and none since 1982. In the 18 seasons since he had taken over, they've been to the playoffs 7 times, including a Super Bowl win. That team, when I was growing up and started following football and became a football fan, that team was always a joke.
Yeah.
Always. And even Berman on ESPN used to call, when the Tampa Bay was actually in the NFC Central back then, when Green Bay used to play Tampa Bay, because it was a division game, Berman would call it the Bay of Pigs, because both teams stunk so bad back in the day, before Brett Favre. So Glazer turned that franchise from the perennial joke into, even though they haven't been to the playoffs since 2007, they had a 9-7 season in 2008, then a 3-13 season, and then 10-6, 4-12, 7-9, 4-12, and now they're poised to get past that whole Schiano fiasco last year and the Josh Freeman fiasco from the last couple of years, and a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of people are looking at Tampa Bay to really make a jump next season.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree with you. I think they're one of those teams that is poised to actually turn it around and possibly win their division.
They gave the NFL another, I'll call it a reliable franchise.
Yeah.
No longer a rudderless ship.
Yep.
So I think that's a pretty fantastic legacy for an owner to have. I don't know what he's done in the community, if anything, in Tampa Bay. I don't know anything about that. I don't live there. I'm not aware of it. I'm not a fan of the Buccaneers. But just if I were a Buccaneers fan, just what he's done for the on-field product. Hello. Just my mixing board is going through some things here. Got some issues. It needs counseling. Just what he's done for the on-field product of the Buccaneers is fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the whole thing with Greg Schiano, I mean, we might as well call it what it is, was a fiasco. At least that's what it ended up being. And I mean, you think of the situation an owner has when they're looking for a new head coach. They bring in some candidates. They've got their staff there, and everybody interviews and people talk, and they say, "Here's the guy that we like best. We like his vision. He seems like he would fit. It's what we're looking for." On, and there you go. And when things don't start going right, you can't immediately jump ship because, I mean, you just can't. You have to give them the opportunity to make something of it. And obviously, after a couple of seasons, he wasn't making anything of it, and actually probably was much worse than what people expected. I mean, that's just life, and that's how that business works, and that's probably how a lot of big business works.
Right.
So it shouldn't be a shock. Unfortunately, it's an athletic team, and it involves fans. It even involves us, who, I don't walk around claiming I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, but there's a lot of things to like about that team. And, if they're the team in the Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if I would root for them or against them, depending who the opponent was, but I wouldn't be upset about it. I'd say, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, and I love Lovie Smith. I'm a big fan of his. I think this is a team poised to make some noise and break out in 2014, and looking forward to seeing it.
Alrighty. Fantastic.
Yeah. So,
with that, folks, we are going to call it a week. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be here next Wednesday night, same bat time, same bat channel. For Jim Saranteas from thefantasygreek.com, and for Stephen Taylor, who may never show his face around here again for all we know right now, I am Keith Grieve from 87sportsfans.com. We'll see you all next week.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.